Hi, my name's Peter Christie and welcome to Christine Farm. I'm a dairy farmer in Caledon, Ontario, and I farm with my wife and my parents. I enjoy getting up in the morning and getting a good start to the day and spending time with the animals.
Hi guys, my name is Olivia Gudaniec and this is Peter. Welcome to Olivia Connects. If you guys are new, please introduce yourselves in the comment box. And if you are a returning subscriber, hit that thumbs up so I know to keep creating awesome content for you guys. So we have a dairy farmer here, which I'm so excited about. I've never been on a dairy farm, but I've been here since 6:30 in the morning, so there has been so many cool things to look at. I want to start off by asking Peter here, what are the rules and regulations for Canadian dairy farmers?
So for Canadian dairy farming, you have to buy quota in order to ship milk. So this is all controlled by the Dairy Farmers of Canada. So each dairy farmer will be allocated a certain amount of quota, and the farmer has to ship as closely as possible to that amount. So the way the system works is each farmer is allocated a certain amount of butter fat, and they have to ship as closely as possible to meet the demand. So it's a supply managed system, so that in order to have the correct price for the milk, you have to meet the supply with the demand of the market.
Right, and for those who don't know what supply and demand means, it's essentially that it stays within Canada?
Yep. Yeah, so that way the farmers in Canada get a stable income without the massive fluctuation in global commodity prices with the global milk price.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest difference between, I guess, U.S. dairy farmers and us Canadians?
So the U.S. dairy farmers have an open system, so they can ship as much milk as they possibly can. So the problem with that system is you get an oversupply of milk, and then the price of the milk will collapse. And there's a lot of envy amongst the entire world about Canada's system because it's a lot more sustainable for the dairy farmer. For sure.
And let's just briefly get into NAFTA, or the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. So now the US is allowed to take, I guess, a bit of the Canadian dairy's marketplace. How do you feel about that? What are your concerns? Does it harm your business?
Yeah, so with the USMCA, the Americans were given a certain percentage of our market, which is generally predicted to be around 3.9% of our domestic butter fat. So you'll start to see more and more US products hitting the store shelves, which is really bad for the Canadian dairy farmer because in order to make the supply and demand balance, we're going to have to cut production in order to make room for the US milk. So Canadian dairy farmers won't be able to ship as much milk and they will make less money. But a scarier part of the deal is if Canada has an excess amount of protein, which is quite often the case, we won't be able to sell it to any parts of the world if we reach that threshold limit. So an interesting thing is in China, they've eliminated the one child per family policy. So there's a real population boom and a lot of babies coming along. So there's been Chinese companies that have invested into a plant in Kingston to ship baby formula from Canada over to China because Canada has such high quality milk. So with this new USMCA agreement, we won't be able to bring milk from Canada over to China. And there's already been hundreds of millions of dollars invested in this plant, so it's put that in jeopardy.
Just fingers crossed that business keeps prospering. And Canadians, make sure you support Canadian dairy farmers.
Always look for the blue cow.
Exactly. And let's get into climate change and just overall like environmental issues. Have you noticed a longer season or a shorter season? Has that affected you guys personally? Yeah,
with climate change, it's still very unpredictable and we're not sure what to expect for the future, but the way it looks is we can expect more extremes in weather. So there'll be more years with drought, which will be bad for the crops, but also there'll be more heat stress on the cows because we'll be having warmer weather and hotter, longer heat waves, and the extreme heat is very hard on the dairy cows. So there'll be more challenges we'll be facing with that, and then you'll have droughts, but then you'll go into having extreme weathers with rain, so you get too much rain and that could damage the crops too. So there's a lot of instability with the predictability of the weather, so that can affect the farmer because basically we rely on the weather for our future. So.
Yeah, and you guys are outside a lot.
Yeah.
What about people that are interested in how the cows are treated? Is there something that when someone's purchasing a jug, bag, or anything of milk that they know that animals are treated right?
Okay, so with the Canadian dairy industry, we implemented a program called ProAction. And with the ProAction program, it covers a range of things from food quality, so it has to be a certain level of cleanliness, and they do tests to ensure that the milk's like low somatic cell, low bacteria. But also they do other things like animal welfare. Every 2 years we get an evaluator that looks at all our cows in our barn, and will evaluate how clean they are, if there's any injuries the cows have, and they'll give us a score based on that. And from that score we have to take it and make any corrections that'll make sure and ensure the calves are healthy and the cows are healthy. And so yeah, they're doing a really good job in ensuring the animal welfare is looked after, and that the dairy cows on Canadian dairy farms are treated humanely and ethically.
And you've always been checked off for that, right?
Yep, we're good for that. We did that last year.
Yeah. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
I'm personally curious what the process is from the beginning to end, obviously in a condensed form, from when you take the milk to when it ends up in stores or in your home.
Yeah, so what we do is we milk the cows twice a day. So when we milk the cows, we wash their udders off to make sure they're clean, and that helps stimulate the milk letdown. We attach the milkers, and then the milker is taken through the pipeline into the barn and into the milk house, and it gets pumped into a tank. And the tank's basically a great big refrigerator, and it cools the milk down to around 2 degrees Celsius. And then every other day the milk truck will come to our farm and we'll pick it up, and it'll take it to the dairy, and then at the dairy they'll pasteurize the milk and bottle it, or make cheese or yogurt or ice cream, whatever the dairy makes with the milk. And then from there it gets shipped to the grocery stores. So it's all under a week from the cow to your table.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you personally drink and eat your own products?
I drink our own milk, but yeah, that's all we have for ourselves. So
it's okay, it's something, right?
Yeah, I go to the grocery store to buy ice cream, but for the general population, it's not recommended to drink raw milk because it is very dangerous. You could get a bacteria in it because it's not pasteurized, and it could make you very sick. So it's actually illegal to sell unpasteurized milk in Canada.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, you learn something new every day, and that's what we're here to learn about your job. Let's touch base on all the hormones, antibiotics, like what is the lowdown there?
So in Canada, we're not actually allowed to use any hormones on our cows. So one that's been used in the past in the US is BST, and it's basically a hormone that increases milk production. So that's completely banned in Canada. You can't even buy it. So no hormones are allowed to be used on cows for
That's good to
increasing milk production. On our farm we do use antibiotics. We're not an organic farm. However, when we use antibiotics, it's prescribed by the veterinarian. And
but you don't milk during that time, do you?
Nope. So each drug you use has a milk withdrawal period, so it's the amount of time it takes for the antibiotics to leave the body. Furthermore, every milk pickup that we have on the farm, there's a milk sample taken, and in that sample they test like butterfat content, the protein content of the milk, but they also test if there is any antibiotics in the milk. And if there's a positive test for antibiotics, any milk in that pickup will get dumped, because it's unsafe for consumption. So,
right. Which would mean you wouldn't get paid.
No, you wouldn't get paid. You'd actually get a fine. So, farmers,
you wouldn't risk it.
No, farmers are very strict, and they don't take any risk, and everyone follows the rules because you can't farm without following them, basically.
Yeah. And before I let you go, if there was another job you could be doing, what would it be and why?
I really love my job. I couldn't see myself doing anything else, to be honest, but if I had to choose, I think I would be a veterinarian to help take care of animals because I enjoy it so much.
Well, that's a great answer. And I know the animals love you because I saw it personally. Well, thank you for your time, Peter. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and hit the thumbs up. And if you have any questions for Peter, leave them below and maybe he'll even answer them.